What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday we had two presentations. We had State of Play, then we had Indie World from Nintendo showing off a bunch of indie games, and I gotta say, I thought they were both pretty solid shows. We're gonna go over all of them here, as well as the big announcements, and kind of talk about what we saw there, and I guess what we can look forward to here. And one of them was a rumor that's been confirmed at this point, and it might be a bit sooner than a lot of people were expecting, which is exciting stuff there. Also, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. We're looking forward to it, and, well, if you don't have a PlayStation 4, I guess now you can look forward to a date where it will be going to other platforms. Yeah, that's right. The year exclusivity appears to be correct, and we'll kind of talk about how that is now out there. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button. It does help out, and get subscribed down below at the red button and then the bell next to it. That way you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're going to start today with Xbox Game Pass and Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game is going to Game Pass after they tweeted this out saying that next week, look for Untitled Goose Game on Game Pass. And this is great, mostly because it means that House probably got a decent-sized check after the popularity of Untitled Goose Game kind of exploded on social media, and we've heard that Microsoft has paid out some pretty good money for, we'll say, larger games like Devil May Cry 5. I don't think they got paid anything near that, but it is great to see it show up there. Again, the studios will get paid, House will get paid, and that means, of course, that more people might try the game out. It's just going to be there on Game Pass. You don't necessarily have to buy it then, right? You just have to buy a subscription to Game Pass that you may already have, and then you can just download Untitled Goose Game and try it. And it's kind of neat to see that happen, and neat to see them kind of put it out there, put it under a spotlight on their Twitter account. It just shows really how big Untitled Goose Game got from when it was first unveiled to when it released to when it kind of took over social media for a while. Oh, and check this out. So we've talked quite a bit about Bluepoint's game. We don't know what it is. They keep teasing it and talking about how apparently it's like their biggest accomplishment, they feel like, and it sounds, at least according to a lot of people, that the front runner right now is a Demon Souls game, but one game that keeps getting brought up is Legend of the Dragoon. I mean, constantly brought up, and I think a lot of that has to do with their teasing also kind of lining up with that game as well, and of course it's a Sony game, so if Sony wants them to do it, they could, but then Demon Souls, I believe, also is a Sony owned IP. It's hard to say here, but it seems like fans really want Legend of Dragoon remade by Bluepoint, so much so that they are actually banding together and having a full petition and really pushing. Now, I mean, you could show that you have interest in the game, but Bluepoint is, I think at this point, locked in with what they're doing, considering it seems like they're going to be unveiling it either alongside the PlayStation 5 or at E3. I say alongside or E3 because I think there will be an event before E3 showing off the PlayStation 5 in like February or early March, and then at E3 we get the big blowout with all the games and a price and release date. I think the event that they would hold before that would just be about technical stuff, much like they did with the PlayStation 4, where they showed up and said, oh, 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, and Microsoft just kind of looked over and said, wait, what? How much RAM? Oh, and this is a pretty funny retro gaming story. Now, Games Radar had interviews with all the different Rare developers who worked on Donkey Kong 64 back on the Nintendo 64, and something that was brought up was when they were showing the game off to Shigeru Miyamoto and everyone else from Nintendo in like a meeting room. Well, they were going through the wrap that we saw, of course, at the beginning of the game, and they were really liking it, getting excited, and it looked really cool, and they were all happy and smiling, and then all of a sudden, DK walks on screen with a realistic-looking shotgun and started shooting all over the place, and apparently Miyamoto became horrified at this because here's DK literally holding a real gun, and that kind of threw him off badly to the point where he sat down and quickly made up the coconut gun that then really made, I guess, the whole thing a bit more, we'll say, family-friendly from DK kind of walking around packing a shotgun and shooting things with it. It was just a funny thing to hear about, right? Them kind of recount this event where Miyamoto went from super happy and overexcited to, what is that? It actually even sounded like he was a little mad because the way they described it, it was just this silence kind of fell over the room where Miyamoto was kind of just staring up at it. So it seemed like it was a pretty big deal for Miyamoto to get that all figured out, and not have DK running around with a shotgun. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're gonna start with Indie World, and then we'll do State of Play. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go through all of the games that were shown there, any release windows that they gave us. A lot of it was 2020. Surprise, it's December, right? Yeah, figures it wouldn't be, in the next few days, although we did have a few shadow drops, which include like Dauntless, for example. But let's go through these because they started with a game that I'm really excited about. We're gonna come back to it, and that is the sequel to Golf Story. It's Golf Story 2. This was really cool to see Sidebar doing this. It's called Sports Story. Yeah, it sounds exactly like how it is. It looks like it's gonna be more than just golf. Exciting stuff there. They did finish out with Axiom Verge 2 that apparently has been in development for about 4 years. That's set for fall of 2020. Streets of Rage 4 was shown, and that's gonna be first half of 2020. Gleamlight, and that is coming early 2020 on the Switch. Bacon Switch, and that's going to be in the summer of 2020. Then we have Super Mash, which is another one I want to come back to. That's going to be May 2020. Then we have the Talos Principle Deluxe Edition, the Shadow Drop, that's actually out right now, if you did not see that yet. Sail Forth is going to be releasing in 2020 at some point. Dauntless is a free-to-play game that is currently available. That was another Shadow Drop. Free-to-play Shadow Drops in general are really cool because, of course, you can just turn your Switch on and download it. Don't have to worry about picking that one up. Murder by Numbers was announced. That's early 2020. Oddworld Stranger's Wrath HD. We had talked about that previously. That was a game that was on the original Xbox. It's a first-person style shooter in kind of the Oddworld universe, and that is coming January 2020, so next month. Skatebird, which is really cool. I had talked about Skatebird before. That's coming late 2020, and one of the biggest things I said about this is it's a bird on a skateboard. When are they going to put it on the Switch? That's where it will really sell well. Looks like they got that all worked out. It's coming next year later on. Liberated is coming in 2020. Boyfriend Dungeon also in 2020. Dreamscaper will be early 2020. The Survivalist, that's a game from Team 17, is going to be just in 2020. Not all of them really had early, late, mid. Some of them were literally just 2020. Okay, so if you have not played Golf Story, I don't know what you're doing. It's not expensive. Go pick it up. It's an awesome game. It's golf mixed with like RPG and like adventure and some action there and some pretty good humor. I like the game a lot. It does have kind of like the 16-bit look, I guess, the kind of the 16-bit style from like the Super Nintendo moved over, but it was a really good game. And I think everyone who definitely liked Mario Golf from back in the day on the Game Boy that had those RPG elements to it should go play it immediately. And that's why I was really excited when they announced Sports Story, which is that. It's Golf Story 2, basically. And it looked like there was a lot more going on, with tennis even thrown in there. And it looked like they were doing volleyball and all kinds of other stuff. But the biggest thing was it looked like you're going through dungeons. Looks like it's leaning more into the adventure style. I like that. Axiom Verge 2 was a very big announcement, specifically for, well, Axiom Verge 1 fans. That, of course, is kind of a Metroidvania style game that is on like everything, I think, at this point. But it's a 2D adventure action style game. And the second one being in development for 4 years really showed, considering it does look a lot better than the first one. And it seems like it's a bit more intricate with more items. And it seemed like different puzzles, a bit more advanced than the first one. So that'll be interesting to see how that turns out next year. And then Super Mash was another one that caught my eye, where it's going to take two different genres, like let's say, I guess an RPG and then like a side-scrolling game, and just mash them together. And it seemed like people will be able to share them, as they shared it right there on screen when they were talking about it, where he held up a code, it looked like. And I did like the look of this. It sounds very, very creative. That, of course, is coming next year. And it sounds like it has a 6-month exclusivity deal with Epic Games, because it's out in the Epic Store right now. It released like 2 days ago, like right ahead of this announcement. So interesting stuff there. Epic Games Store even kind of snatched that one up for a couple of months. But overall, Indie World was good. I liked what was there. It was definitely good for an indie presentation. It was, I think, moving along pretty quick. They had some good announcements, some shadow drops, some exciting stuff, I think, for indie fans. And hey, I think it was one of their better ones. And now, I know a lot of people are thinking, hey, usually there's a direct a couple of weeks after an indie presentation. Yeah, I mean, that would put us in early January if we go by that standard, considering a lot of the companies will start to go on like holiday breaks and everything. Yeah, they'll probably come back together and say, okay, first or second week of January, let's put this big direct out and set us up for 2020. Next up, we'll talk about State of Play. That, of course, aired yesterday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Pacific. And once again, I thought this was solid. I will even say, you know what? this might have been the best state of play. I think it is, actually. I think it is. I'm gonna go with it is. And while it's not like overwhelming, I do think that Resident Evil 3's key art leaking out probably hurt some of it. I mean, I put a rumor out there as well, but of course, people could take it or leave it, I guess, at that point. But when the key art actually showed up from the PlayStation Store, that pretty much sealed it, and people knew what to expect at that point. So let's talk about what was that state of play. Resident Evil 3 is coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Steam. That is on April 3rd, 2020. We're going to come back to that one, definitely. Babylon's Fall got a gameplay look, which is great because I was a bit concerned about that one. Predator Hunting Grounds is coming to the PlayStation 4 and PC April 24th, 2020. So first half 2020 for that one, which is good. We talked about Untitled Goose Game before, but that's December 17th. We have Dreams, which will show up February 14th, leaving early access now, which is good to see that they will have their full launch then. Spellbreak, that's early 2020. Perception is Reality, that's coming to just the PlayStation 4. And then Paper Beast, Explore a Dreamlike Ecosystem, that is PlayStation VR. So it wasn't as many as like Indie World, but of course Indie World I think moved along a bit faster. They were showing off some big games like Resident Evil 3 that took up quite a bit of time. And then of course Babylon's Fall that I was really concerned about that one. I talked about it before. That was one of my predictions for this week, to see it in some capacity, and we have. It looks like we're not going to find out more information about that until next summer, and in the press release, they did talk about it coming to the PlayStation 4 and PC. So it's not just going to be the PS4. They'll also have it available. Specifically, they said on Steam, but at least from the gameplay they showed, I need to see more, but at least the action and the combat looked good. It looked like platinum, so yeah, I expect some quality out of that action and the fighting. Resident Evil 3, I think, was like the big showpiece, and we knew it was coming, but it's part of Project Resistance. So we're going to have Resident Evil 3 as the single-player campaign, and then Project Resistance as the multiplayer side, which is great because I didn't think Project Resistance was going to do that good on its own. But if you pair it with Resident Evil 3, yeah, I think you're going to sell it really well, considering they also announced, Capcom did, that Resident Evil Remake 2 had sold 5 million copies now, meaning that it has outsold the original. And for any of you that likes to do a bunch of collector's edition, they also have this that's coming to, of course, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 as a GameStop exclusive, apparently. And this is the Resident Evil 3 collector's edition that has the statue of Jill Valentine, or I guess the figure of Jill Valentine, a collector's art book, the Stars item box packaging, and then the digital double album soundtrack along with a double-sided map, and then of course a copy of Resident Evil 3 Standard Edition. So there you go, if you are a big-time collector, that will only set you back about $180. But I like the look of the game in motion, it looks great, and overall, yes, I'm ready for Resident Evil 3, and we don't have to wait that long because it's coming April 3rd. That might have surprised some people, but I did say that it seemed like they were getting close to being able to release it and unveil it, and 2020 sounded like it was when it was going to happen, so hey, good news all around there. The rumor all worked out, and Resident Evil 3 not too far away. Predator I'm not as interested in just because it looks kind of like Evolve with Predator, but hey, you know, that's something, I guess. For anyone who likes those kind of multiplayer style games, you'll probably enjoy it. And then Babylon's Fall, need to see a bit more about that one. Oh, and I guess we'll say something about Ghost of Tsushima, because they closed it out with Ghost of Tsushima, but it was a teaser telling us that the full trailer would be at the Game Awards. Why? I don't know. I guess just to get us hyped for that. Jeff Keighley at least said that that is the biggest trailer, I guess the longest trailer, that they will have at the Game Awards. It just seems strange that Sony didn't want to just show it off in their own state of play. I guess they'll just push it off to the Game Awards. Maybe we'll get a release year there. Hopefully it's 2020. But overall, solid state of play. I still don't expect a ton out of a state of play when they announce it, like we do with something like Nintendo Direct, but I do see them improving, and I think it moves along fast enough. It's definitely better than having to sit through like an hour and a half of Inside Xbox when they would do that. Next up, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake, as originally when they unveiled it, they said first on PlayStation, and a lot of people remember that. They bring it up a lot whenever it's called a PlayStation exclusive, and some new box art that was tweeted around, I saw it from Wario64, as you can see here, appears to even say that it is an exclusivity deal up until March 3rd of 2021, which is when I think a lot of people expect it to go to the Xbox at least, and then maybe PC. I mean, I know people are going to ask, what about Switch? We'll see about that. I believe they're using Unreal Engine, so you never know. I mean, weird things have happened. The Witcher 3 exists on the thing, so you can never count any game out at this point. It's going to come down to where Square, I guess, wants to put it, and of course, the file size that could end up being an issue with something like the Switch. But again, you never know. Maybe Nintendo steps in and works it out like they did with the Witcher 3, where that's on a 32 gigabyte cartridge. Who knows? It depends on how badly they want it. But yes, 1 year of exclusivity. I'm not going to wait that long. I need it on the PlayStation 4 immediately. I'm going to pick it up right away in March and play through it. I'm excited to see how far, I guess, they've really worked to push the story and open it up a bit. Because if this is just like the small first part of Final Fantasy VII and it's supposed to be 50 to 60 hours, I'm expecting quite a bit of backstory to kind of be explored here, and that's exciting. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about GameStop and how they're not doing that well. They had Q3 earnings reports, and it went pretty poorly, especially after seeing the stock drop nearly 20% after hours. That should tell you all you need to know. It doesn't look great for GameStop. However, I think they are going to make it to next generation, so no worries there if you're thinking, oh no, my local GameStop's going to go away. I got to go pull my pre-orders. Well, I'm not going to tell you to not pull your pre-orders, but I think they will still be around. So let's talk a bit about this, as GameIndustry.biz put out the article that kind of summarized everything you need to know about this, and it is down in the sources below. New hardware sales declined 45.8%, new software declined 32%, accessories and then pre-owned games both declined over 13%, and the one jump seemed to be collectibles, which increased just over 4%, with a net loss of $83.4 million for the quarter. Not a great improvement, although I guess it's better than, I believe last third quarter they did, it was like $400 million that they lost, so it's not as bad as that. I mean, they still lost a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars, but they are trying to do a lot of stuff. They're revamping stores. They're definitely closing stores, as they've also upped kind of their predictions around how many they're going to be looking to close, which seems to be closer to 300 stores, although most of us realize that there are a lot of GameStops in like a 10-mile radius from each other, and you don't really need all of them. It's kind of redundant, especially if you see a mall that has an EB Games and a GameStop. Like, why? It's basically two stores by the same company in the same mall paying astronomical rent, I'm sure. It's very strange to see that. I think they're really closing down a lot of that, and apparently they're also shrinking down a lot of their global presence as well. And their big thing that they're telling investors right now is, we're going to make the push to next generation. That's what we're hoping for. And that in holiday of 2020, so a year from now, we will see a rebound. But considering the industry, the entire industry is working away from physical games right now going to digital, I don't really see a great future for GameStop unless they can figure something out like massive. Otherwise, they might just end up being like Blockbuster and just kind of get pushed out of the industry just by technology and the way it's going. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Kron saying, hey, look, another Bayonetta release before any info on Bayonetta 3. They definitely showed us Bayonetta 3 way too early. Although this does bring up an interesting thought, an interesting conversation. Is it better to hear about a game very early on, like this early on, or like even Metroid Prime 4 early on, right? Or like a Spider-Man, we heard about Spider-Man way early, or Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Is it better to hear about these games super early so you can build up hype and excitement and talk about it and have conversations and your excitement and everything? Or would you rather hear about it and then like 8 months later, it comes out? Because I think you can make an argument either way. Hey, I don't want to know about it this far out because then I'm waiting on it. I'm getting nervous because nothing is being said about it. I mean, we're coming up to another Game Awards. It's been a couple now since Bayonetta 3 was announced, and I don't think it's going to be at this Game Awards because it'd be strange for Nintendo to show up with it again just as an update. Save that for a Direct. So there are some people who are a bit panicked, and fortunately, Platinum has said, oh, we're still working on it. Everything's fine. It's just, we're trying some things with it and figuring it out. But phew, I don't blame people for being nervous when Bayonetta 3 has just like disappeared for the longest time. But let me know what you guys think about that thought. Would you rather wait until almost release to hear about a game and then a couple months later it's out? Or would you rather have the announcement and then spend the next couple of years speculating about that game? And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's Indie World. What would you think about that? Were there any big announcements there that blew you away? I'm really excited for Sports Story. It's gonna be awesome to pick that one up. And then Axiom Verge 2 as well. Some fun stuff in that Indie World presentation. Then what about State of Play? Are you on the bandwagon now for Resident Evil 3 after seeing it? I am. It's gonna be really, really cool. And with Resident Evil 2 Remake selling so well, I expect 3 to also do really well. And Capcom can continue on in their success that they have right now, because Capcom's hit their stride recently and I don't expect them to stop. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.